All right, we're live. This is episode 66 of the Deconstruction podcast brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction business. Let's kick it off with one of our latest reviews here. This came from Pacific Shine, it's a contracting company out of BC. So Jobtable has been a great addition to my team as we swapped away from Jobber due to the high price. Kosta is responsive and cares about his clients. He is actively adding more features every week, and I feel heard and appreciated. Thanks, Jobtable team. Well, thank you for that shout out, but it's definitely not only me. The team is definitely pumping right now with a lot of those new features. Johnny, Charlie, as you guys know. A couple of announcements here. I just want to remind any listeners who may be tuning in. Now spring season is upon us. You're probably going to get a lot more inquiries and calls. A lot of our clients are setting up their websites. So if you don't already know, Jobtable does offer AI-powered SEO websites. Beautiful designs, mobile responsive. They're designed and created to get you on the top of Google and get organic leads and building out your pipeline in an organic way. They're very, very affordable. So do check it out, jobtable.com, if you want to learn more, and you can sign up for a 14-day free trial. But now is a great time to consider a website. How's it going, boys?
100%.
Honestly, just to that point too, can't stress that enough. That was a big reason why me and Johnny's business took off in the early days, was because we had a good website and we tended to it on a very consistent basis. And I think nowadays people really overlook that, the fact that you can have a 24-hour advertisement, and especially with the AI websites, that it's updating, on the back end, and you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to lift a finger. So I think it's a great way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they update themselves. They are AI powered. So we take real time Google trend data, and based on your specific services and area, based on a lot of different criteria, but we proactively update your site with the relevant content to keep it consistently fresh and in the eyes of search engines. So yeah, like you were saying, it's hands off, but they work.
Yeah, and just to further that note as well, it's crazy because, getting back to what Charlie, you were saying there, the SEOing game has changed big time, right? The Google algorithm is constantly updated to make it organic, right? To ensure that the people that are at the top are getting there organically, not just, hiring, one or two SEOing companies to sit there and try to get you to the top. So with the AI now doing that for you, it really learns the Google algorithm and it's constantly adjusting. And I always say to a lot of our clients when they inquire about this, having a website is one factor. A website is extremely key, but the reality is how is that website structured? And this is a cool thing about our new AI powered websites, is that our kind of like our templates, they're set to the Google algorithm and they're constantly updating. So instead of having a beautiful website that essentially I called it's like a glorified business card online, it's actually laid out in a way that's going to better the SEOing. And also with AI doing the SEOing, this is something that's working 24/7. You have nobody, no sick days, no 9 to 5, no I don't work weekends. This thing is constantly working. So again, I wanted to get that point out because it is extremely important. I don't want people to think that we're just out here trying to sell new features. We're literally trying to bring value to everybody in the industry because, as all of you know, Charlie and I, started from two guys in a truck, and we truly know what it is to grind out and try to build a proper contracting business and trying to bring in those leads constantly, right? So again, just getting back to what you said, Kosta, check it out, 14-day free trial, book a demo. You guys have nothing to lose.
Yeah, Kosta, I don't know if you can pull up one of the websites, even if you want to pull ours up, just so the viewers can get a chance to actually see what it looks like. But yeah, just to still touch on that as well. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
So
the amount,
keep.
and honestly, like full transparency, we sell software. It's no secret. We're here to sell you software. But me and Johnny, we own and operate a plumbing company, which has been around for close to 17 years now. Take it from us. We know what we're talking about. The amount of business that a website brought us in early on was enormous, and still today, the amount of calls that we still get. Hey, I heard about you guys. I looked up your website. I'm really interested in getting you guys to come out and price a job for me. It pays for itself tenfold. So although we are selling software, we truly want to give you guys something with value that will end up putting money back in your pocket. So I mean, you look at it as a cost in the beginning that will pay for itself over and over again afterwards.
100%. Yeah, just bringing real value, shit that actually works, right? Without the fluff, without we are construction guys, so this is a tool that everybody needs, and that's why I say even for the people who are watching on YouTube right now who can visually see it, again, the thing with our templates is it's literally built around the Google algorithm. Right. So a lot of people, they'll say, oh, I have a custom website. Yeah, that's great. The custom website looks fantastic. Right. But on the layout, how does that reflect on the Google algorithm and how is that to SEO? So these are all key factors to keep in mind when selecting, building a new website and selecting, like an SEO company. Right. So this is all in one. So definitely give it a look. There's a lot of value here, and this is shit that actually works, right? So again, getting back to removing the fluff and coming down to a price point where it's affordable and it's not a huge team behind it that has to cover a bunch of overhead as well, right? So
And in 2026, where the theme truly is becoming automation, who the fuck has time to attend to a website? Right? Like, to keep track of who's searching what should I tweak here to get more traffic. This will do it all for you on the back end. It's hands off. You don't have to worry about it. It'll take care of it. And I was going to say quickly, the amount of people that we speak to every day that don't have a website and have never even thought about getting a website still blows my mind. Like 2026, you don't have a website. It's insane to me. You got it. You have to get something. Right, or else you're just going to be left behind.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me into the first topic I wanted to talk about with it's a lot of noise right now. We've had several guests on, and there's just a lot going on in the trades, construction, the economy, wars, geopolitical. Like I feel like there's been a lot going on for the last several years, but it just things just keep adding. And for me personally, I like in times like these, I feel like when you go back to the basics with a lot of things, it's a good kind of recalibration for yourself. I'm going to ask, starting with Johnny, just a little bit of a loaded question here, but knowing what you know now, starting out your guys' company 17 years ago to today with all this AI, these tools, these resources available to us, if you were starting a plumbing company today, how would you grow that company?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. Basically, what would I do differently? So obviously, when we started to today, there's obviously, the times have definitely changed. Getting back to, that one point that you said, Kosta, there's a lot of noise around, man. And a lot of noise creates a lot of frustration, a lot of ideas. And the problem is people can't hone in on what they need to do, or at least tackle one thing at a time, right? So the key thing, if I were to do it all again and start fresh today, the key thing is again, I'm always a big advocate about this. You got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. Even though I've done it again, if I had to start all over today, I would still follow that same process, because that process, it also is the rewarding part of being an entrepreneur, right? Like, enjoy the process. Control what you can control. And the number one thing that I would control is running lean. Running lean is number one, because if times are good, there's money flying around, you're running lean, you're making a lot of money. When there's a dip in the economy, when anything changes, There's slowdowns. If you're running lean, the hit is very minimal. So to me, that is one of my big factors that I always say is running lean. And number two would be efficiency. Getting these, and I give a lot of credit to you, Kosta. You've been drilling it into me and Charlie since the beginning, from when we did start iPlum, is introducing those processes early on. Because as you grow and as you start getting employees and as you're used to a certain system, if that system is not efficient enough, to try to transition a system when things are rocking and rolling and like I always say, the gears are lubricated and everything's moving, it's very hard to stop that machine to then transition into, kind of like a more efficient way and then deploy it across depending on how many employees you have, right? Like we're a company of 30 employees. So when we introduce any type of systems, these are the systems that we want to make sure they're quick, clean, easy to learn, and deploy as relatively like fast as possible, that we can all be harmonized on a system, right? Like I can't tell you how many times things slip through the cracks in our earlier days, just because everybody has a different job to do. Everybody has a different task, their mind's focused on it, but the problem is how's the communication throughout the team, right? And that's one of the big things.
Yeah. Charlie, let me throw it to you in a different way. If you were starting over again today, knowing what obviously every business, there's different focuses, different departments, whether it's sales, marketing, the operations, the execution. If you were starting today, what would you prioritize in a business today?
So I'll break it up like this. I want to talk about the things that we did very well that I would recommend doing for people, and then I'll start with the things that I feel we could have done better. One thing that I think we could have done better is just our processes, our system. And again, a lot of people that started companies, 10, 20 years ago were guilty of this, very old school, pen on paper. We didn't have much of a choice. It's just kind of, there wasn't anything out there for us to use. But looking back, I think we could have been a lot more organized with the pen and paper, just kind of like the processes and the systems that we had, just keeping track of, job costing. And again, it's a double-edged sword, because in order to be on top of things like that, it takes a lot more time. And I'm speaking back then, right? You have to dedicate a lot more time, office time, to doing the job costing and kind of see where every single penny went. And where now with the software like Jobtable, it's done automatically for you. So I feel like I would have liked to see more organization back then, because I think it would have been a lot easier to adapt later on to a software. And honestly, this is the honest truth. Even us, we created Jobtable for our own company, but it still took some time for all of our employees and everybody to adapt to it, right? And I feel like sometimes you have to force something on people in order for them to see the light and realize that, okay, fuck, this is much better, right? We're saving 20 hours a week now by using this. But I feel like sometimes you have to really force their hand, because they're set in their ways and they don't want to change the way they're doing things. That kind of sounds very authoritarian, like a dictatorship kind of way to say it, to kind of force it on somebody. But that's truly the reality of it, especially with the amount of softwares coming out and AI and everything, and everybody starting to realize that their time is so valuable, and the more AI and the more processes you can implement in your business, the more time you have to be more productive on the job site or spend with your family, friends, whatever it may be. That's one thing. And then kind of something that I feel that we did very well that I never want to overlook, and I always bring this up, is building relationships with people. And I say that, like, just today, I spoke to a GC who was like completely puzzled as to how me and Johny were so busy right now. We have work for the next 2 years, 2.5 years. And he was scratching his head. He's like, fuck, I don't get it. He's like, everybody we speak to, like, all our trades are dead. We're dead. We've had to lay off half of our staff. And this is not like a one-off guy. Like, I speak to trades every day that, you know, even guys that are working, I see them on jobs. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, where else are you guys working? It's like, fuck, this is it. We have this. Once we're done this, I don't know, man, we're tapped out. So this is the common theme. And it reminds me of like speaking to these like older heads back in the day when they went through their recession. And some of them, you speak to them, you're like, fuck, what recession? Right? They have this view because they kept busy through it all. So they didn't feel it whatsoever. And to be in that situation, I feel is such a privilege, but it's an earned privilege. It's not something that will just be handed to you. This is something that you really have to earn and work at. And that's something that we did very, very well in the beginning, was creating these relationships with these general contractors and just contractors in general. Because I can't tell you the amount of time that, you know, we started to kind of get slow, and we've reached out to fellow tradesmen. And they've hooked us up with, hey, you know what? I just met this new contractor. We're starting a job and he's looking for a plumber. And we've gotten work that way. So I think I really rank that high up at the top. And that's something, I mean, we could have always done better, but I feel like we did a really good job, a good enough job at it. And it's not something that you stop working at either. This is something that we still actively work on to this day, which again is probably why we're busy. And not to say that we've never been slow. There have been some slow times, but I mean, it's very rare that we've ever had to lay anybody off in almost 2 decades, which is something that we're proud of, because we really look at our guys like their family, and we treat them with the utmost respect. And there's been times that, you know, Johny, I don't know, you might have shared this story, but there have been times, and people don't believe us, but I mean, it's the God's honest truth, that me and Johny went like almost like 8 months without taking a paycheck, because we had to make sure that our employees were getting paid, and they were happy, because that was our top priority, because without them, the jobs were not going to get done. So sometimes you have to make that sacrifice in order to build that bond with your team and build that bond with other contractors and keep the train rolling along.
Yeah, well said. I mean, not much else to add there. I mean, for me, it's you know, you guys both mentioned processes, and I feel like nowadays, you know, the way to me is thinking about systems and processes is as just like it should be. If it's not second nature to the equivalent of like going to the bank and opening up a bank account, then you're already behind. Like it just has to be second nature. You can't even think about processes, because without that, it's very hard to grow a business.
Yeah, just a final thought on that though. I don't blame a lot of, you know, I want to say new businesses, because you know, you think about it, we're construction guys, we're blue collar, right? We're guys that came out from the field. We had the skill set to run a job. So, you know, some people have the stomach to get into business and basically say, I could do this on my own. But that is one key factor that a lot of guys that are on site, they've never had to experience, which is, sure, you can have a process on how to do something on site, but how does that transfer over to, you know, the billings, the paperwork, the scheduling, the getting quotes out the door, you know, managing all that. We've never had to do that, right? It was always like, you know, you're working for a company, they would do that in the back end, you wouldn't even know what they're doing. So I don't fault them. So I just want to be clear on that, and that's why I just wanted to make one final note. It's like, look, man, for anyone listening, guys, I know it sounds redundant, and I know you've heard it so many times, and it's like processes, like what the fuck they're talking about. Like, you know, I'm a plumber, I want to start a company, you know, go get work and make money. No, 100%. But this is a reality, is if you want to get into business, those processes that you put in place from day one will just help you run that much more efficiently, right? And listen, for anybody that, you know, just wants to take it as a grain of salt and kind of, you know, do their own thing, no, look, all power to you, but eventually it will catch up, and you'll understand why guys like us and you know, everybody we've had on the podcast, this is why we keep beating it into to all of our listeners and to anybody we speak, right? We speak to. Like, we have a gentleman that left one of the GCs that we do a lot of work for, and he started his own company. And, you know, after 2 months, that was exactly his biggest pain point, which is basically, I need to figure out these processes because I can bring in all the work, but how do I manage this, right? Like I'm drowning. And that's exactly what the processes do. They help you manage that. So,
and that's yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, quickly. I was gonna say, so I agree with you, but I will say I partially disagree. So when you say like, you can't really blame these guys. These guys are bricklayers, plumbers, whatever. Fuck, they don't want to, implement processes and software in their business. I think we're really like getting to a point now that like the scales are tipping where they will be blamed. If you're not looking at AI and softwares now as a contractor in 2026, I'm sorry to tell you, there's a fucking problem.
no,
Right? Like this excuse of like, man, I'm old school, pen on paper. Clients these
no.
days are really holding on to their money a lot more than they used to. Profit margins have gone way lower than they used to be. So you have to find areas where you can make money. And a lot of this money that's going to be made now is saving time in your own daily routine, and that's how you're going to save money. Right. So I think like the window is closing where this excuse train like is no longer going to be valid. You're going to be left behind, and that's just going to be that.
No, Charlie, I agree with you. I agree with you on what you're saying. I'm saying I don't fault the people that are just getting into business because listen to what you just said, right? It's like the profit margins. Well, they just got into business. They don't know nothing about profit margins.
No,
right?
but I'm saying I do fault them because now the information is out there, right? This is not a secret anymore, right? Like everyone's talking about this. That softwares exist. You can't go a few days without seeing something on Instagram about a software or program, especially if you're in the trades. You're going to be fed the content one way or another, right? So if you want to be blind to it, you want to run your business old school. And look, I know a lot of guys that still do. I know roofers, I know electricians that they're one man shows and they're content. I'm not really like, look, can you run a business and be successful and make more than you would if you're, a union plumber or whatever? Yeah, sure. Of course you can. Right. But I'm not talking about these one man shows that are just happy with just creating a job for themselves, essentially. I'm talking about the guys that actually want to grow and manage a large construction company and they want to continue to grow and be an entrepreneur. Right.
No, in that sense, yes. What I'm talking about is I don't fault the people that are just getting into business because they don't know any better. They haven't felt the pain of running a company yet. They're just getting into business. They're hot and horny. Like, look at us when we started our company. Obviously, it was 17 years ago. So, technology was much different. But what was our main objective? Our main objective was let's go out and get a truck. Let's get it decaled, right? Fill it up with material. Get some type of company outfit. Like
Okay,
it was
well,
all
that's
new.
good.
It was all new. It was all new.
I get it.
And that's what we're focused on is basically building that foundation to go out and get the work. But this is why I keep saying I don't fault them, but that's why hopefully our listeners, anybody who's thinking about getting into business or anybody who has a newer business, it's like, look, guys, these processes and procedures, you got to put them in place now. You might not think that it's relevant in this moment in time, but it is extremely important because that's how you start to structure your business around those processes and procedures. So, for example, right, up until 5 years ago, Charlie, even us, stupid us. And I remember, people that we talked to that were much further ahead in business than us, 5 years ago, it was like, you guys need to work on a PO system. Right? It's like, what do you mean PO system? It's like, I know I'm using this supplier, I'm buying it from here, and this, that, and the other thing. Well, guess what? We got hit in the face pretty hard 5 years ago, and guess what we had to do? Fuck, these guys were right. We got to introduce a PO system, so now we got to change this whole process on how we're selecting the supplier and how they're able to bill us under a certain PO number or PO tag. So what I'm saying by I don't fault them is because you don't know what you don't know. They're good plumbers, they're good electricians, they're good roofers, good drywallers, but they've never been on the business side. They've never ran the company where you have multiple jobs going. It's all on your money. The supplier is knocking on your door, right? So that's why I'm just trying to say I don't fault these guys, these new businesses, the people that are just starting out or thinking about just opening up their company. But that's why I keep saying we need to beat it into our listeners. We need to beat it into everybody we talk to. Guys, that process and procedure from day one is extremely important. Trust me, man, it's just as important as hiring your first employee, if not even more important, because when you hire that first employee, because you have the processes and procedures in place, the transition of bringing him in and keeping track of him and getting him paid and making sure his hours are taken care of and everything is, set where you're not, waiting for a text message or anything like that. It is extremely important, number one, for you. And number two, it is when you start hiring guys and bringing guys onto your team, it shows them that you're not fucking around. I'm set up properly, right? And look, that gives a huge image, even to employees. How many times, Charlie, we see people come up to us and talk to us, hey man, do you know another electrical company that's hiring? Yeah, I can't stand working for them. Why? Oh, they're so unorganized. You know what I mean? Everybody that's listening, they know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Working for somebody who is unorganized and is a mess, it's frustrating. Even though a lot of people think like, yeah, well, you're going to site, you're getting paid your 8 or 9 hours. What the hell do you care? No, people care. I want to go to site, or I want to wake up, go to work, and everything is organized. I know exactly what he wants me to do. I know where I have to start, and I know where I have to end, right? And how do you get that accomplished? Those are the processes and procedures.
Listen, I like Kosta's mentality on this, where it's like, there are no plan Bs. It's you either fail or you succeed. And honestly, Johnny, I was just going to ask you before, what podcast did we have to listen to for advice when we were starting out 17 years ago?
Fuck all.
Right? Right? There was nothing. We were very lucky to have one company owner that, that kind of was our mentor a little bit, and he wasn't even a big company, but he's a very bright guy. So we were very lucky to have him at least. But the point I'm trying to make is that nowadays, the resources and the tools for these people starting businesses are endless. So at the end of the day, we can sit here and say, I'm not going to fault you. I get it, this and that, but you're either going to fail or you're going to succeed. So choose a side and choose wisely.
Yeah.
And
well just said. Last point on this is, what I wanted to cap it on was the reason why, like Johnny, you were saying, we keep beating this into people is similarly to how, if you have a good friend, you want that good friend to tell you the things that you don't want to hear, right? Your best friend should be your biggest critic. And that is literally why Jobtable exists. Like, we are the best friend to contractors. We literally wake up every day to push this industry forward. And so that's why we're beating it home into you, is because it's that important. And, Jobtable is potentially a solution where you don't have to think about processes. This is why we exist. This is how we're trying to push this industry forward. And that's why we keep beating it into everyone's head on how important processes and systems are. So, but yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to shift your perspective that we're always looking at new clients and new projects for money, right? That's where we look at. I need my company needs money. I need a new job. I need this and that. But what we're never doing is looking inside our own company. There's money that's to be had right at your fingertips. And it just takes reorganization processes in order to find it. But we guarantee you that you can find it and put money back in your pocket.
Yeah. All right, switching gears. We had a lot of comments and conversations from last week's episode. We had Daniel Foch talk about the economy and put some numbers on to what's going on out there. Yeah, so year to year, construction starts are down 10% compared to last April. Input prices are up almost 20%. So costs are up, tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper up to 50%. So, the pain is real. Like, there's actually, a lot happening that's impacting construction companies. Like you said, Charlie, you guys are busy. You're one of the I'd say odd companies, rare companies that we speak to who are this busy at this right now. And so, Johnny, start here. Like, what are you seeing on the practical side, on the ground, from clients, GCs, projects, delays. What's the reality on the ground?
The reality on the ground is nobody has money. This is the reality. It all comes down to the client who wants to develop the property, refresh an office, build a new, warehouse. The reality is a lot of people don't have money, and the people that do have money, or the people that are moving ahead on projects, people are fighting tooth and nail to get to it. Now, if you want to further that question onto what I'm seeing of the people that are benefiting and the people that are kind of getting the short end of the stick in this type of economy, is the people who bring it back to the basics. Those are who I find are winning. The people who are getting out there, the people who are getting in front of their clients, right? Because we've spoken about this a million times as well on the show. Is people get into a comfort zone, people start to get busy, and then the work kind of comes in naturally, right? You built a name for yourself, you built a brand, people know who you are, and the work comes in. Now, when that work stops coming in that influx to the team size that you have, you start to worry and you start to say, what the hell is going on? So I find that the people that are going back to the basics, getting in front of clients, going to meetings, meeting new potential clients, building relationships, those are the people that are getting the opportunity. Now, in saying that, the margins have definitely come down, right? Like, this is a reality across the board. Again, I've had clients that have only been on interior renovations that are now kind of stepping out of their comfort zone and getting into new builds, getting into extensions, getting into industrial, getting into, basically anything. Like this goes also back to being able to be very diverse in the type of work that you do. Because anybody who wants to just kind of stay in their lane and not adapt, these are the times that it's gonna hurt, right? So again, I just to put things into context, I was speaking to one of my cousins who's a real estate agent, and obviously we all know real estate is down all across the board. Things are not moving, prices have come down. A lot of real estate agents, they're hurting, right? Even when we were talking to Daniel offline after our conversation last week with him on the podcast. So, just speaking to my cousin, and it's like, how's it going? And it's like, well, I had my record, Q1 in my whole career. Now, he's had his record Q1 in his whole career in one of the worst economies in his career, right? So it's like, well, what are you doing? And it's like, buddy, I don't put myself on a pedestal. I wake up, let's say I have nothing planned. I have to make a plan. And that plan is I'm getting in my car, I'm going into the neighborhoods I know with some data, and I'm door knocking. I'm getting back to door knocking. You know what I mean? I'm getting back to getting in front of people. There's no difference in construction, right? Start to drive around. Find people that are in your kind of industry, in your field. Start looking at more GCs. Start asking people for contacts. Start talking to your HVAC friend on site or your drywaller friend and saying, hey, who do you work for? Hey, can you make an introduction, right? It's a networking game, right? In today's economy, networking is extremely key. Networking is extremely key. You can never stop networking. Don't stop trying to meet new people, trying to get new opportunities. Stop thinking that everybody's going to come to you. You know what I mean? Sure, when the economy is good, sure, work is flying around, money's flying around. In times like this, you got to go back to the basics.
Yeah. Charlie,
John,
on your side, on the similar topic, but more on the hiring side. So some numbers that I saw was back to like the labor kind of side of things. So this side of the U.S., 350,000 new workers are needed in 2026, and that's projected to be 456,000 in 2027. So, continued track on this labor shortage as the headlines are showing. Yeah, I know you do a lot of the hiring in iPlum. So, I feel like most contractors, you try and solve, not even contractors, but businesses in general, you think about solving for hiring with paying more money. Do you think that's actually still true today, or where does that break down?
well, I'll start by saying this whole labor shortage thing. I can show you a stack of 60 resumes on my desk right now of guys that are begging me for a job. And there's probably 15 guys out of the 60 that I would hire today. And I just don't have the work for them to hire them. But I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this labor shortage because everybody I seem to talk to is out of work, or most people, anyways. I just want to quickly add something, John. You made some really good points. Just one more thing I want to add that I think is very important is, when the money's coming in, our bellies are fat. You're really not focused on anything else other than enjoying what you have at the moment. And one of the key things that me and Johny have learned through our decade and a half of business is that when we're very busy, I find that we tend to slam on the gas even harder. And our intention is always okay, we have 25 guys, how do we get it up to 30 guys? How do we get up to 35 guys? Because I feel like a lot of people get very complacent and comfortable, again, when their bellies are fat and the money's rolling in and the projects are coming in. But as soon as that dries up, and now you're kind of left in a position where, okay, well, I lost my hunger. I wasn't going after projects as aggressively because I got complacent and comfortable. And now I'm in a bit of a pickle. I'm in trouble because now I got 40 guys and I got to let, 75% of them go. And I think that that is something that can be changed very easily by staying hungry and constantly pounding the pavement. And this is a big reason why, companies like me and Johnny's are busy right now, and other guys that we know. You talk to them when they can't even breathe. They're fucking buried in paperwork, emails, but yet they're still going after more work. You talk to their estimators and it's like, yeah, we bid 20 jobs this week, right? Like, holy fuck, you guys don't have enough work? And they'll tell you the same thing that I'm saying. It's like, yeah, no, we do have enough work, but once those jobs are done, we want to stay as busy, if not more busy. They're always looking for more. I know that's not answering your question, but I wanted to add that in because I think that's very important. It's often overlooked, and we've been guilty of it. It's very easy. Look, when the money's coming in, you're having lunches, you're going to golf tournaments, and everything is fine and dandy. But that quickly goes away, and that's a situation that's avoidable. Yeah. Now, as for the hiring, look. Hiring I've always been tasked with the hiring. I take it very, very seriously. Again, for me, it's like, it's very puzzling because, like I said, I see the amount of resumes that are coming in when we're in a supposed labor shortage. It's very confusing to me, and I was actually gonna ask you about this, Kosta, what you think of that. Like, as an outsider of construction, what do you make of that? Like, so you're outside and you're seeing all these labor shortages and we need this many guys, but then you talk to people in construction and you hear, fuck, all these companies are slow, they're not working, and there's people lined up at their door for a job. What do you make of that as an outsider?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I mean, the numbers have to come from somewhere. I don't know if it's like coming from a single place, right? Like logically, it just doesn't. Something doesn't add up. If you're saying you have 60 resumes, 50 of which you could hire, these people are unemployed, but there's a labor shortage. That just tells me it's more on the demand side. Like, there's just no work for these people. And so the few companies that are hiring just can't hire everyone.
And that's what I mean. Are these numbers like that's why I think we have to be more specific with where the numbers are coming from. Like you said, is this because we're basing these numbers on the amount of work that we were doing in 2021? Is it because there's going to be oil rigs opening up and they need a bunch of, hundreds of thousands of workers to tend to these rigs or buildings in one certain area? Or is this spread across the province? Is it spread across the country? It's really hard to say. But I can tell you from what I'm seeing on the ground as a contractor, I mean, look, good guys will always be hard to come by because companies will hold on. Like, I mean, we have great guys in our company. And obviously we hold on to them with dear life, because, they play a crucial role in, getting the jobs done and, keeping the money rolling in and your reputation and all that. But there are guys out there, and like I said, I'm literally looking at a stack of resumes right now, and I've recently done some hiring, and there's a bunch of guys that I wish I could have hired. And I actually, funny enough, one of them actually texted me yesterday from a month ago asking me if we're looking again, right? So it's been a month, he still doesn't have a job. So
Yeah, honestly, Kosta, just to get back to that, we did a whole episode on it. I think it was with Manny from the Construction Life, if I'm not mistaken, a couple other guys as well. Look, these are numbers that are being reported, right? So, I don't know. I don't want to speculate as to why, this, that, or the other thing, but I could just tell you, boots on the ground, there's no labor shortage. Definitely no labor shortage, at least not in our province, even to the, hundreds of users we have, if not close to 1,000 just in Canada. It's they're saying the same thing all across Canada. I don't think it's a labor shortage, man. I just think that, like Charlie said, there's just, there's not enough work out there to employ everybody that needs to be employed. Like, that stack of resumes on Charlie's desk, we've gone through them extensively. And I could just tell you right now that I've never seen so many applicants from big union companies apply to non-union companies. So, and it's not just us, talking to our friends who own electrical companies, HVAC companies, it's just not true. It's not true. There's definitely a slowdown in the industry. There's a whole, the high-rise game, like whoever is working for these high-rise companies and has projects going on, God bless them. These are projects that have been in the works for a long time, and, they're working, but you talk to every one of them and they're like, yeah, man, I don't know where we go after here. It's almost like the high-rise industry has been killed. Now, when you look at a high-rise industry, and I don't care, whether you're in the US or Canada, if you're working for strictly a high-rise company, these are usually companies with, 100, 200, 300 guys. So once you kill an industry like that, each site has 20, 30 companies like that. So you're talking, at any given time, 4,000, kind of workers per high-rise site. What happens to all those guys?
yeah, exactly. And it's not like they're flooding into commercial. Like, the commercial has gone down, if anything, in the industrial and the commercial, or it stayed the same, but it hasn't grown. So it's not like these guys are just flooding into this industry because it's booming. So
Yeah.
where are all these guys?
And truthfully, for any of our listeners, like I would definitely listen to episode 65 with Daniel Foch. He's like, that guy's like, the way that guy's brain works, and I met him for the first time on this podcast. The guy's very analytical, and sometimes you need somebody to be able to sift through the bullshit and the weeds that are being thrown out and numbers and everything like that, to really give you kind of like, a real perspective on all the data that's coming in from multiple industries to tell you what's actually happening. And it just comes down to, look, man, a lot of people don't have money. It's all borrowed money. When the interest rates rise, when there's no incentives on top of interest rates rising, for people to spend money, then it just becomes this waiting game until the money becomes almost free to start flowing again. So while that happens, how can you tell me there's a labor shortage? How is there a labor shortage when, again, I think you said, Kosta, just in new projects, like it's down 10%. You want my honest opinion? I believe it's more like 50%. Right? And I can tell you, just based on the amount of requests that we've gotten from, let's just say, 2023 to now. So in the last 3 years, the amount of requests, like we used to be very selective on what we're going to bid. Even if we had a relationship with somebody, if we were really busy because we knew that we had this other project that was about to start, another project about to start, we'd be like, look, man, like I can give you a price, but like I can't do the job. It's not really happening right now. Right now, you have to put boots on the ground, go out and create that opportunity, right?
Yeah. And keep in mind, those were U.S. numbers, so I don't know how different they are in the U.S. or in Canada, rather. Probably different based on different markets, but yeah. The point is, I think, yeah, like you guys were saying, that there's clearly some gap between what the data is showing and like what's on the ground. Because the argument will be, it's like, oh, you're gonna have a lot of quantity, but there's a lack of skilled shortage. But you're just saying out of 50 out of 60 applicants are qualified. So something doesn't add up. If anyone's listening, you have the answer. You're an economist. Please enlighten us. Let us know. Maybe we're missing something. But
one key thing I just want to throw in, and again, I'll leave it here on this topic. I think one of the big problems is, sure, you can take all the data, all the analytics, you can try to make heads or tails of it, but when it comes to construction, it's nobody's talking to us. That's the reality, right? You can put out all the fucking data you want. When was the last time you spoke to, and don't tell me you spoke to 3 of the largest companies and that's going to give you an oversight on what's happening, in a country or in a state or in a province. It's bullshit, right? Like the reality is there's a disconnect on how they're getting this data and sure, like, obviously projects starting up, they have that data because it has to go through the municipalities and everything like that. But nobody's talking to the people on site. Right? There's not one guy I've talked to right now that is saying, I can't find a good guy. Not one. Sure, 2022, 2021, sure, that was floating around. I can say wholehearters, yes, 100%, whether you wanted to call that a labor shortage back in the day or whether there was just too much work for the amount of workers that, were at anybody's disposal, sure. I would say from mid 2023 to now, I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, with that, last topic here. I know here in Toronto, the weather's turning, spring, the sun's finally out, and usually around here, around the spring summer market, things start to heat up a little bit. People have more energy, more excitement in the air. How do you guys foresee the next 4 to 5 months in construction, specifically here in Ontario? Do you see that having any impact?
I mean, for us, what I will say is thank God that this winter is over because we took a fucking beating. We had a lot of new construction going on, going through the winter, and it cost us a lot of money. There's production was fucking slowed down in major ways, and it's been very trying. So I'm happy to see some sunshine. I feel like our employee spirits are kind of up now, and they're ready to get at it. Honestly, overall, Kosta, to answer that question, I think it's going to be very positive. Again, for the companies that have work, I think it's very motivating when the sun comes out and it starts shining, because because of the seasons that we endure here. It really affects our moods, right? Let's face it. As much as you want to say it's like, no, I like the winter. Listen, when you don't see the sun for 6 months, and it starts poking its head out, it makes a big difference. So look, like I said, we're busy. Anybody listening that's got work out there, buddy, just get at it, man. Jump on top of it, kill it, make your contractors happy, make them proud, make the clients smile. So the work just comes in droves after that, you know. And if you don't have work, there's no excuse, man. Like Johny said, we have a real estate agent who's been in the game for, you know, plus over 2 decades, and this guy still goes and knocks on doors, and he just beat all of his records, because he just went back to the old school ways. And another thing to mention about that guy, he still does cold calling on the phone. He'll pick up the phone. He'll spend a day just doing cold calls and working on his pitch and making sales that way. So what does that tell you? A seasoned veteran is never too good to go back to the basics. So, you know, if you're a roofer out there and you're slow on work, there's no excuse, man. Go hand out flyers, go bang on some doors, go drive down a neighborhood and find the worst roofs you can and go knock on the door and give them a 10% discount. You know, the opportunity's out there, and now's the best time to get it, in the spring. It's a new beginning, and it's time to get it.
I agree.
Well said.
Back to the basics. I think that's the theme of this pod. I guess that's a good place to wrap up. Charlie, I missed the last question on the last pod for Daniel, but I'm going to give this one to you. I don't think you've answered this one. But if you can put on a billboard for every single construction company in the world to see, what would it say?
No one cares about you. And I say that wholeheartedly. That's a tough lesson that I learned very, very young, and it's the most important lesson I've ever learned to this day. Listen, your mom loves you. Of course she does. Your wife loves you. But you have to act as if no one cares, no one loves you. You're in this to win it. And no, if you fall down, you have to have a plan to pick yourself back up immediately. The second you start looking up for a helping hand, you've already failed. Because one day that helping hand won't be there, and you always have to have a plan to get back up and get back on the horse. So that's
such a Charlie answer.
Yeah, 100%, man. Tough love is the only way.
Yeah, love it. All right, and that's it, guys. Really appreciate everyone listening. If you've gotten this far, we'd really appreciate hit subscribe wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people, and we'd really appreciate that. And if you are a contractor, construction company in the trades looking to streamline your operations, improve your processes, and save a lot of time on the BS, the headaches, the admin, do check out Jobtable. There's a 14-day free trial. Get started, and you'll be surprised at how efficient you'll become and how much time you'll save. So with that, boys, pleasure as always.
Amazing.
Talk soon.
Thanks guys.
All right.